We shall get into a discussion about pants pockets, purses, and packs as soon as we take our journey with Google into Struggle City on this Veterans Day edition of the Android Police Podcast.
It's Monday, November 11th. Welcome, I'm Cody Toombs alongside Jules Wang. And it's a cold November day, it's Veterans Day. You know, what better time to talk about all the crazy things that are happening in tech news, Pixels, Google, all that good stuff.
It sounds like a great day to be had, and if Twitch messes this show up, because we've been having different connection problems, different weird stuff going on, well, who's to say that it isn't my fault? So I'm sorry in advance.
Well, one thing that is not your fault is the Pixel 4 OTA. Apparently, Google has been not so good about rolling this out. There are people all over the world complaining that they're not getting the November update. And what this seems to be equating to is if you have an unlocked Pixel 4, chances are the update probably has not rolled out to your device, or I believe there were a few very early on, like day one, where people got it, but otherwise it's basically not hitting any devices. And it seems to be that the update itself is labeled for September 21st as its technical update date, whereas the Pixel 4 actually came out with an update that was for October 5th, which is already later in the universal timeline, let's say. But this does not seem to be hitting, or this doesn't seem to be an issue for devices that come from carriers. So if you're carrier locked, chances are you are actually getting the November update as expected. But yeah, strangely, Google is claiming that the rollout is happening on schedule. And apparently they think nothing is wrong, or at least that's the public image that they're putting on. And even people who are sideloading the update are not able to get it to work, again, because the date stamp is just wrong. It's either wrong or it's actually an earlier update. It's not really clear which, but in all likelihood, just actually wrong. So, yeah. No, it's not really clear what's happening yet, but this seems to be
I'm
an
wondering
issue
if
that
Google is just oblivious, or if it's just, it's not a good sign. Let's just start off with that, because we're talking about a phone that was just released, its first update, and yeah, no good. if things are rolling out to this kind of a start, it portends no good things to happen in the future as well. So I'm wondering what's really going on. How has Google and its Android developers have slacked off in recent months in terms of getting all of its phones in order?
Yeah, some part of me wants to give a little bit of, not forgiveness, but kind of the natural allowance of, it's the first update that they're shipping out to the, what in the world? That was good timing. That'll get edited.
Is Mercury in retrograde still? Because I'm wondering if this is still affecting that.
I think this is just a curse show. But that's weird because my phone is actually on Do Not Disturb mode and a call just came through from, of course, a telemarketer. So yay, all the joys of things not working correctly. Anyway, regardless, I'm willing to give a little bit of sort of leniency for the fact that this is the first update rolling out to the Pixel 4. So I can kind of understand if maybe they don't have everything fully streamlined yet. Maybe somebody copy pasted the wrong thing in place. Maybe there was, little technical oversights. But if this isn't worked out for the next update, it's going to start looking really bad.
Yeah, that's not good. Not a good sign. People have also been wondering about the 4K 60 issue in terms of video recording, and having that getting tagged to an issue. Apparently, XDA was able to find out that when you have the cameras on, both they have both the cameras, the two main cameras on it both times are recording or they're taking data. At least the chipset is through the ISP. So
yeah, the SoC just doesn't have the bandwidth to cover two cameras running at 4K simultaneously. So it's, I mean, it's an understandable performance limit, but it's also a little disappointing that you can't sort of go into an override of some kind to still get 4K 60 if you really want it. Because if we're being honest about it, I don't think people really zoom a whole lot when they're filming in 4K 60. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think you typically kind of frame up and then, like, once you've got your framing, just start recording and you're probably done zooming at that stage.
oh yeah, no, totally. That's definitely the case where it's like you have the cropped in camera, and you don't need that data. You don't. If you're doing 4K 60, I think a lot of people are presuming that you're dealing with the canvas that you're working with, and that interlacing that, yeah, all the other data from all the other cameras is just not going to be, I don't know, useful, or it's just going to be taking up too much power in any case. So leave the ISP to do one job in that matter. So that is what we have going on for that story. I think we can move on to the next one. And this has been another difficult time in YouTube history. Adpocalypse 2017, Adpocalypse 2018, concerns about how YouTube is engineering or is allowing its AI algorithms to engineer the content, what content gets killed off and what content gets more views. This time around, I think it's a pretty simple case here. So this gamer, streamer, longtime YouTuber, Markiplier, also known as Mark Fishbach, has about 25 million subscribers, but hey, you may not know him, which I guess it's important to introduce him because he has a YouTube original series, and it's called A Heist with Markiplier. There's a lot of choose your own adventure kind of thing going on. I think we've actually covered that YouTube is actually investing more in choose your own adventure type of stuff. But in terms of this series, he was actually doing a stream post fact to kind of walk through viewers and give them a chance, because perhaps you don't have the money for a YouTube Premium subscription for a YouTube original. You have to buy it for like $10 a month. It's crazy. So as a favor to his fans, he is walking through some of the decisions that you can make, and he's been indicating, hey, let's let the fans choose where they want to go. At the end of each video, you have two options for what the next branch will be, and he let users decide by either showing red-colored emoji or green-colored emoji. And if you're familiar with how these live chat rooms work in terms of Twitch or any sort of live stream, you'll realize that there's a lot of emote spamming going on, a lot of activity there, and it's quite easy to just get passionate and hit that button. But if you do hit it enough on YouTube,
well, and to be fair, like if you watch these, the chat room will literally be going by like page at a time is how quickly stuff gets spammed in there. If you have even a few hundred viewers and they're active, there is no such thing as reading it. There's no watching it. It's just literally pages of text flying by as fast as you can see
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it's crazy. And Twitch has different ways of handling that, including universal timeouts for people who just like are hitting it too much. YouTube, on the other hand, well, it decides that it's going to suspend the user not only from their YouTube account but their Google account. That means they can't access Google Play, they can't access whatever they've paid for subscriptions, and the whole thing is a lockout. And they say that you're supposed to be able to verify your way back in using two-step verification, but there's been some question about whether that was actually the case, whether that was actually allowed for the people who were affected by this. And everyone, of course, being all frustrated by this, took to Twitter, took to Reddit, hashtag I stand with the band, as they say, because people were banned for no reason. And it's been a debacle, to say the least. Uh, Markiplier and his team, to their credit, and YouTube, to their credit, have been working to reinstate all those accounts. Now, when you're suspended at all, whether it's your account or if it's a video that gets blocked away, you have the chance to appeal. And you have a chance to appeal and get that seen by a human as opposed to like a automated bot. Turns out that most, if not all of these appeals were rejected without any explanation at all. So there was a question as to whether they were actually overseen by humans. But eventually, after 4 or so days of confusion and upset, things were finally getting back to normal. Accounts were being reinstated. This shouldn't have happened in the first place. YouTube engineer took to Reddit talking about just a lot of issues going on. They said that the whole account bans were in place to prevent spam behaviors from spilling over into other Google apps. The appeals that should have been approved anyways, if it were the case that all these people were being banned for just emote spam. And although that these parameters, the emote spamming, shouldn't be picked up as a suspendable behavior, that YouTube isn't readily going to give up the AI systems and algorithms that have helped them pick up thousands of comments, videos, and channels every day for banning. So it's this is we've been stuck here before. I'm sure that there are going to be other events that we'll have to confront, but it's a matter of how do people en masse affect change at YouTube, a platform that is so driven by unexplainable things, and the humans don't seem too terribly interested to cater to their users. It's tough.
So what strikes me is this is not, I mean, this individual incident is sort of silly in its form, and it stays kind of in that weird space where, I mean, we're talking something as simple as people spamming emotes to a chat room, which is possibly the silliest example of this, but we've heard this basic story before of simple things that are somehow triggering bans. And it's not just YouTube, it's all across Google. You can, and not just bans, but all kinds of just bad customer interactions. Easy examples include things like purchasing stuff on the Play Store, running into any kind of problem with it, and not being able to get refunds. You can look to developer accounts to get banned over silly things, or sometimes apps getting pulled, any of that stuff. And I can think of story after story with people getting literally like either their Google accounts banned or having major functionality turned off. And a lot of times if you apply, or if you send any sort of appeal or try to have any of this stuff worked out through what would supposedly be a human interaction, you're still getting automated responses almost the entire time, and you're never really getting through to people. So clearly YouTube is, at least from a lot of the stories, it's very clear that those were automated replies. They had to be. Either that or whoever they hired to work their customer service. These are people who are just like auto clicking decline. There's some sort of definitely not paying attention to what's happening in those terms. And all of this is also happening because an automated system basically went wild and started interpreting kind of common behavior as spam. So this strikes me as one of those things where I think the one thing that could help is if Google gets meaningfully embarrassed is actually really the only thing that I think can make a difference here. If Google is meaningfully embarrassed over and over again for certain things, that might lead to change. But I don't think it's going to be like I don't think it's going to user outrage is going to make a difference. I don't think a hashtag on Twitter is really going to matter all that much. I think it's one of those things where Google just has to screw up so badly. And this kind of is a bad enough screw up where it will instill some sort of desire to actually fix things. Though it concerns me how they'll fix it.
Bad code that they just implemented. It was like, this is a parameter that we have to look for. Let's try it out without really actually testing it and, seeing, the sociology of what's going on here. So, it's short-sighted, I guess you could say. And they could put it away as that and say, we'll do better next time. But, I'm not sure if how big does this event have to be? Because if we want to point out a failure that's embarrassing enough to them, it has to be something that's structural. That has to be to the point of you let this automation go, and it's not you let this automation go wild. It's that it was there in the first place that allowed this to happen, and because of your rules, it is a fundamental part of YouTube, and this is not right, and you'll drive people away. They don't care if they have an alternative platform. You're just driving people away.
So I think they made two mistakes, I think there was one technical issue that exposed a bigger fundamental issue. The technical issue is, of course, that a spam filter caught hold of this and just lost its cool and decided to ban a bunch of people, which that sucks. Also, I think it's weird that a YouTube ban for spamming in chat led to a full Google account ban. That seems wrong too. But I think that whole problem really exposed the other problem, which is that their customer service is just broken. They're using too many automated systems to shut down or to simplify their customer service. So again, these are two separate problems that just came together in the worst possible way all at once.
Yeah. Just like how everything is melting down around Twitch and my internet connection to make the show as unpalatable for viewing as possible. But I think there is one way that people can actually help us out in this matter. Right, Cody?
There is. If you're watching us live right now, first, sorry for all the technical difficulties, but we are on 4 times a week. That's Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the regular podcast and Tuesday for the Q&A show. And we can't be here without your support. The best way to show that you love us is by subscribing to Android Police on Twitch. You can get the special Ryan emoji, which shows him losing his cool in the best possible way. It also earns you extra entries into AP giveaways, which I believe we have one coming up really, really soon. We may have one going now. I'm not totally sure. But tiers start at $5 a month. And if you are a Twitch Prime Amazon Prime subscriber, then you get a free Twitch Prime subscription every month. So if you subscribe to us, that will cost you nothing. Amazon gives us some money, and basically everyone's a little bit happier. You can learn more at twitch.tv/AndroidPolice. And if you don't use Twitch, you can also head over to androidpolice.com and you will find a donate button.
I would love a donut button right about now.
I want to, yeah, you know what? I really would like a donut button.
Oh boy.
But, yeah. Point is, we would appreciate it. Give us those subs because it keeps us going. It keeps us fed. And it shows that you like us.
Yeah.
And speaking of likes,
Ooh.
Instagram is going to start hiding some for those of us in the US. They've actually been doing this already in 7 other countries since April. It's considered a test. They're determining whether or not they actually want to be continuing with this strategy. But seeing as they've been doing this in other countries since April, I'm going to say it's beyond a test. They're just doing a slow rollout. But the CEO announced at the Wire25 event last week that they're going to start rolling this out to presumably a few hundred people, I believe is what he said, but I'm sure it's going to be well above that. And they're basically going to start hiding likes from public visibility. So you'll still be able to see on your own post how many likes you've got, but you won't be able to see other people's like count on their posts, at least not from the feed. And I assume there's probably never really going to be a way to see it again. But the presentation for this is that it's going to make Instagram a safer place on the internet, that it's going to reduce the competitiveness of trying to get more likes. It's going to lower the incentive, so to speak, for trying to chase likes on Instagram. So, first off, let me just ask, do you use Instagram that much?
Yes, I do. I just post random pictures every so often, and I don't care about how many likes I get.
I freely admit I need to use my account a lot more than I do. But what in the... Okay, seriously, my phone just dinged again. I have Do Not Disturb mode on, and I do not have any whitelisting of apps. I'm getting a little furious with this.
Oh my god!
Sorry.
No, it's all right. Again, I think I talked about this pre-show. It's Mercury in a retrograde still. We're all screwed up, and I don't know how I'm going to edit this show together. Perhaps at some point we're just going to have to redo this show.
Well, there will just be a lot of slightly awkward cuts, I think. Anyway, just figured I'd mention that because it's another good edit point. Regardless, I have heard unofficially, and this is something I guess will be kind of a semi-exclusive to our podcast. I've heard unofficially that what has prompted this change in Instagram is that they're actually trying to remove the ability for people to, or for major Instagram accounts, for major influencers, they're trying to take away some of the incentive for them to partner up with brands, and they're actually trying to push the brands into using Instagram's advertising platform more, because now they can't really see how successful the campaigns are just by using an account directly, or looking at an account directly and doing the looking at the likes. So presumably this is really not about removing addictions and fixing.
This is about Facebook getting into the advertising game on Instagram, which it owns. By the way, did you all know that Facebook owns Instagram? Like that's something that I feel like, people, some of us in the media feel like that's a surprise, or that's like something that people don't know. And I feel like people actually do know, don't particularly care, because as long as Facebook has its own silo over there and Instagram is over here, that I don't really have to care. As long as you leave me alone. You leave me alone in this safe room. That's just fine. But it's still Facebook. It's still the same company. They're still making the same dollar, whether it's from WhatsApp, by the way. They also own WhatsApp, or Facebook or Instagram. And if they're not making, Instagram hasn't been making enough money. WhatsApp has not been making enough money. They've been juicing up those platforms with new features to try and make sales, revenue, a thing. So if this is the backhanded way that we get there, then I don't know. It's maybe it's all right for people. Maybe the guise of security, of safety, of not having to care about people liking your stuff is a thing. But there
Yeah.
are sides to it, like social media campaigns or advocacy, where that kind of thing, the safety in numbers is important. But
Yeah. So one thing that strikes me is if this really were about trying to reduce addiction, why would you still be able to see the like count on your posts? It seems like you're the exact one who should not be able to see your own like count if this is really about stemming addiction or reducing the chase to get more likes. It really seems like you should just get like a notification or clarification saying, yes, people like this, a lot of people like this. Once you have that, it doesn't seem like you should need more if this is really supposed to be about sort of mental health on the internet.
And also, if influencers still have access to their own numbers, it's like, well, they can just self-report the numbers and take the screenshots,
Exactly.
the receipts. Like,
not to say people couldn't lie,
not to
but
say people couldn't lie, but I mean, that would be tea spilled for no reason at all, as the people in the fashion community like to say.
not actually heard that expression.
They like talking about a lot of spilled tea. It's not milk, it's tea. They like sipping it, and it's interesting. You should check it out sometime.
I probably won't.
Good.
But yeah, anyway, overall this is one of those things. It seems like really heavy duty messaging to not actually convey necessarily the best of intentions. So it goes.
Yeah, that's the way it goes indeed.
And speaking of that, where
boy.
does your phone go, Jules?
That was a pretty simple one. That was a nice, easy segue, which I appreciate. So my phone goes in my front right pocket. And from what I've heard from you in Slack, your phone goes in your front left pocket.
Yep.
The reason why this is all pertinent is because we have decided to take up the weekend poll for this last little couple minutes of discussion in asking you, the listener or viewer, where do you put your phone when you're not using it? Our Ryan Hager, who runs the weekend poll, has been doing a lot of staring at butts and crotches for the past while. And he's been very curious about that thing. So,
you heard it here first, folks. You should really be very careful when you get around Ryan.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. So we're dealing with a bunch of things here in terms of women's wear, the debate about pockets in that fashion, and where else? I mean, whether you still rely on bags or purses or merces or whatever other containers you use anyways. I mean,
or even the surprising belt clip and holster kind of thing.
Yeah, so let's get to the numbers here so far, and this is from just what is it, a day and a half, 2 days or so of polling. So by far the most popular option is the front right pocket at 44%. Front left is at 40, so we're in pretty good company, the both of us, in terms of where we put things. I'm surprised to see the back pockets getting as much attention as they are. Well, in the fact that there's so little, they share so little of the pie here. So back right pocket at 6%, back left at 5%. I feel like it really stands out whenever I see someone on the subway or on a bus and they just stuff their phone, their giant 6.8-inch phone, phablet thing, on their freaking, oh boy, and they have the dongles on too. Like that's always a fun time trying to see all of that congestion on the cheek. It's it's a weird seeing that, but to see that only
Well,
11% of people do that.
I think in fairness, you don't necessarily. I think if you were looking at the people polled, they're probably answering where does the pocket spin or where does the phone spend most of its time. And for a lot of people, I think it's probably front pockets because the danger of sitting on the phone is lower, and also at least the reason I originally started putting my phone in my front pocket was the potential of pickpockets. It's not a big problem where I live, but anytime I traveled, it's something to be aware
Oh my
of.
god! Oh
And
my god! You,
so,
you know what's ridiculous? It's we go back to like iPhone 6 territory, the Ben Gates scandal, and like even I was back with Michael Fisher doing a school assignment, interviewing him if he had any problems with the iPhone 6, and it seems like nothing was wrong. Like he purposefully did some testing with the back pocket and sitting down on the subway, and that was a fun time. That was a fun time when one like phones were actually slightly smaller. I'm not sure if they're um as big as they are today, but you know.
yeah. Well, it definitely depends. I would say the phones physically have been staying at about the same footprint for the last few years. It's just that the bezel size has been shrinking. So screens technically got larger, but the phones themselves really didn't. Not since the original Note, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, the Note being the size that most phones are at now, whereas
I mean, some of them, like the
they were
OnePlus
a bit
7 Pro, like they can be
oh, sure.
extra chonkers.
Yeah, but I think when people are doing sort of lightweight tasks, especially where they want the phone to remain accessible, that's when the phone ends up in the back pocket because they can throw it back there, leave like a headphone hanging out the back or something like that, and you just want to be able to get to your phone quickly. So I can kind of get why the back pocket still gets a good count, but I don't think it's necessarily the primary pocket people use all the time.
Well, when I look to place my rigid slab in a place where I can like access it easy, I'm not thinking of a place where the pocket resides on a rounded surface. Like no, that's not my ideal spot because one, discomfort, two, it might just drop out. The physics will just allow it to just drop onto the floor. So,
Well, pop out of the pocket, yeah. Yeah, so I'm generally with you, but like I said, I think if you're standing and walking around, you're more likely to find the back pocket a convenient option. But only for that short period of time. I think storage wise, it's more likely to be a front pocket thing. What surprised me is there was still a solid 2% for the belt clip, which honestly, I have not seen somebody use a belt clip in a really long time. So
again, Michael Fisher, LD West holsters, those are fun times.
yeah, it's just not something I see it really ever anymore. Outside of like maybe the sort of large offices, I guess you still see sort of the IT belt clip.
God, we need to fly you out to Brooklyn and like you have to see this mythical man. Like this, he's just he is as quirky as I have made him out to be.
Okay. And then we've got another 2% who are going for shirt pocket, which baffles me. I can't think of a worse place to store a phone than a shirt pocket.
So when I was on a date and I was leaving the car, I had my phone in my shirt pocket because it was more convenient to put there than in my pants pocket at the time. It was a pretty cramped car. And when I left the car, the phone came out of my pocket and hit the asphalt and it got cracked and I had to do an RMA. So don't put it in your shirt pocket.
So I don't know how many people know this one, but frankly, if you listen to this show, I feel like pretty good odds you've seen the IT crowd. There's actually an episode where Moss has the phone in his shirt pocket, leans over, and it comes toppling out and goes straight into the toilet. Which I feel like that's pretty much just the future for almost anyone who keeps the phone in a shirt pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and then you become Richard Ayoade and have other titles to your name and make money off of those, and then you don't have to worry about paying for your phone. I guess maybe.
Yeah. So then there was another 1% that mentioned bags or purses, which unfortunately is really more a sign of how many men versus women answer our polls. I won't trigger, or I won't cut it down to readership. I'll just say answer the poll. Okay. I think that's a more fair way to say
fair.
it. And then another 1% that basically went with other. And if you read comments, what I find interesting is there was a whole lot of love for either what's known as the carpenter's pocket, or some people refer to it as a cell phone pocket. And frankly, if you've ever worn cargo pants before, it's basically not all that different from the cargo pants extra pockets, which it's been a while since I've worn cargos, but yeah, no, 100%. That was always the best place to keep the phone back in the day.
Totally. No, I miss cargo pants. I miss the ones that I used to wear, but unfortunately they've worn away. All the threads are gone now. So R.I.P. to those.
Yeah. Though I do have an unfortunate story from back when I used to wear cargos and worked as a bartender. This was...
See, you didn't think that this would be longer than a 2-minute discussion, but go ahead, please.
No, I told you this one was going to last a little longer. Anyway, but no, when I was a bartender, I used to have an old HP Jornada. And for those who... I wouldn't expect very many people to remember this device, but it had a clamshell sort of lid that was part of the product. And in that was, or part of that lid was the stylus. Well, the stylus basically kind of poked out a little bit, but it wouldn't touch the screen. Except I kept this thing in some cargo pants, and the device actually slipped between my legs, like upper and lower leg, and got squeezed.
Ooh.
It squeezed just enough that the stylus cutout pressed into the screen and actually cracked it.
Yikes.
So, yeah, that's the one warning on cargos, is just make sure that you don't have something that's going to destroy your screen if it gets sandwiched.
Cargo sandwiches are not particularly tasty.
Cargo sandwiches. All right, we have episode title.
Thank you for that. All right, so we would like to thank everyone. I'd like to thank Cody for the title, or my title. I'm not sure. We'll take co-credit for that. And in the meantime, if you have already taken the Android Police podcast survey, well, we'd like to thank you for doing so. Your thoughts and opinions help us shape a better show for you to listen to or watch. And if you haven't already done it, I mean, pretty easy. It takes less than 10 minutes. All answers are anonymous, and you can do so at bit.ly/surveyandpo. That's survey ANDPO. And we would be very appreciative if you do that. Perhaps let us off easy for this show, since we've been having problems with Twitch and everything else. But we usually run a pretty tight ship around here. Check the show's description if you can't be bothered to type in an address, because that will have a link for you. And if you have the time, if you want to dedicate yourself to an email so that you tell us what you really think, well, you can do that to podcast@androidpolice.com. On Twitter, Cody is at Cody. On Twitter, Cody is at Cody_Toombs. That's TOOMBS. Our producer, that's me. It's Jules Wong, and I'm at Point Jules. Our theme music is by Home. Please join us on Wednesday when we'll have Lord Eric Ravenscraft as our guest, and on Friday too for Michael Fisher, aka Mr. Mobile. Until then, y'all have a good week.